Focus, focus. Okay, let's talk about it. In this lesson, I'm going to go open kimono about how I earn from YouTube. The reasons why in a sec, but first, this is a subject I avoided for a long time. In fact, here's just a short list of why it makes me uncomfortable. I worry it's too self-referential, making it about me rather than about what a viewer might want to learn. It feels like a cop-out, just showing you guys the inner workings behind the scenes when maybe I should be doing the hard work to make a transcription or something. Some part of me worries it'll take the magic away, like explaining how a joke works. And of course I worry it'll make it seem like I'm only about money and everything I do has a profit motive. But I'm making it anyway. Why? Well, there's a quotation, which I'm probably going to butcher, that goes something like, "You should only write a book when it becomes more painful not to write it than to write it." And that's the place I think I've arrived with this lesson. As uncomfortable as putting it out into the world makes me, it's finally less uncomfortable than not making it. It's painful to see so many YouTubers with ads on their channels, and it's obvious somebody's probably teaching this. It's obvious from some of the comments I get, whether it's demonetized, bro, or you should let us pay you for these free YouTube lessons that most people don't understand very much about earning on YouTube. And recently I've gotten some emails accusing me of being ruled 100% by a profit motive, or implying that having something for sale is in and of itself wrong. And the idea of going right at that argument, Eminem style, fired me up. I hate to waste a good temper tantrum. Finally, and this might just be justification, I have started planting a flag that more musicians need to be online, and that the internet is kind of the release valve for some of the types of scarcity that used to dog musicians with brick and mortar venues. And one big gaping hole in the how to get gigs lesson was where I said, don't depend on physical gigs for money. But then I left it pretty open as to how you're actually supposed to make money. Caveats and justifications out of the way, and you can see how much head trash I've got just talking about this. Let's get into it. How I make money from YouTube. Since 2015, I've been able to make a modest living as a result of being on YouTube in the drum lesson space. I'm not getting rich, at least not yet. Not that there would be anything wrong with that, as long as I was giving you guys value for your money. But I am making a modest living. The actual way I do it is going to seem pretty simple, and it's going to be a relatively small part of this video. I sell courses. That's it. You've heard me talk about it in other videos, probably. If you click the link below, I will send you 3 free videos in 3 weeks that are structured, that have transcriptions. As of the time I'm releasing this video, I've got... Actually, I'm not going to describe my courses in this lesson. I want to avoid accusations that this has any commercial motives and keep it 100% facts. Suffice it to say, I've got online courses for sale. And I do want to get a little bit into how, hopefully without boring you to tears. First, you need a place to host your course. For my first course, I built out a website on my own using WordPress and a platform called MemberMouse. But for subsequent courses, I've used commercially available software like Thinkific and Teachable, which makes it easier for me and also more reliable for my students. So just sign up for a site like Thinkific or Teachable, build the course, and start printing cold hard cash, right? Well, not quite that simple. That's how I tried to start out, and here's how that went. First, I didn't have any way to tell people about my course without paying for traffic. So I ended up having to pay for ads, and I'd end up spending just as much, if not more, on ads than I would earn from sales of my products. Second, it turns out nobody actually wanted my first course. It was my guess about what people wanted to learn, and it turns out it was a pretty crappy guess. Nobody bought it unless it was priced so low it was like an impulse buy, and at that price it wasn't enough to be profitable over what I was spending on ads. Even if it had been the perfect solution for a big problem, people still wouldn't have paid more than a pittance for the courses at that time, because who was I? Why would they spend their money trusting me to solve their problems, especially when there are plenty of other solutions? Here's what I eventually discovered, and I'm blazing through this. I have an entire blog with years worth of blog articles about this, but I don't want to bore you. So we've talked about step 1, which is have a course hosting platform, which is actually the easiest step. Step 2 was to build a YouTube channel so people could discover me organically. That way I didn't have to pay for ads, at least at first. Step 3 was to find out what problems people actually had with their drumming so I could make courses they actually wanted. More on this later. And step 4 was to build a mailing list where I give away a lot of, I hope, useful stuff for free, so at least a few people eventually trust me enough to invest in my paid products. There, 4 years of trial and error distilled down into 15 seconds. With that out of the way, let's talk philosophy, because that's what I really want to focus on. Part of the thing that fired me up to make this video was one too many ads on one of the amazing YouTube channels I follow. Here's why that bothers me so much. By 2015, I'd realized I could make that aforementioned modest living from YouTube. At the time I had around 15K subscribers. And crossing that Rubicon made every other option look different, like running ads to my channel. The economics of monetizing with ads are terrible. You need huge numbers of views and subscribers, often in the millions, just to make what I make. And you're beholden to the platform. One of the hate comments I get sometimes when I'll have a video get flagged for a copyright strike, because YouTube can't differentiate between fair use and other use, I'm not gonna get into it here, is demonetized. As in, damn bro, you got demonetized. Or demonetized, you got. Except I didn't, because I don't rely on ads. Then there was adpocalypse in something like September of 2017, when YouTube just abruptly cut the share of ad revenue it was sharing with its creators. More on the ad model later on, but suffice it to say, if courses allow you to monetize without ads, that changes the picture somewhat. Another thing that course sales helped put in perspective was in-person lessons. People are always astonished to hear, I only teach in person occasionally, and usually only for fun. But if you do the math, it's just not an effective way to earn money. There's the time I'd spend commuting to the studio, then the time that's blocked out in my calendar that I can't use for anything else. If I just took that time to make a YouTube video, I'm gonna earn way more in the long run. But I do like to meet people in person, and it's always rewarding to teach somebody who's super motivated, so I still do teach occasionally. It's the same with clinics. I actually really enjoy them, but I'd never do a clinic for money that I wouldn't do for free. And finally, there are those just for the money gigs. This one's way out on Long Island, and it pays $200, and it's 3 hours each way. Just like clinics and in-person lessons, the question becomes simple. Would I do it for free? Okay, so seems pretty utopian, right? Just build courses and sell them, and you don't have to run ads for the man, and you also don't have to take any crappy gigs or schlep to any private lessons you don't want to teach. So why doesn't everybody do it? Well, that's kind of the keystone question, because it gets into some of the ethics and some of the fault lines or elephants in the room when it comes to money. As far as why everybody doesn't do it, and why, quite frankly, I'm not worried someone's just gonna steal this blueprint and compete me out of business, it's hard, and there are few, if any, shortcuts. I had to build a following on YouTube brick by making a video a week for a year before anything started to get traction. I had to learn everything about the tech, which isn't that hard, but it's a lot harder than running ads. I had to learn a bunch of stuff about marketing, like how to write emails and how to develop products people want, and then how to talk about them so that people know they're the ones they want. But there are books on all that stuff, and while it's hard, it's not that hard once you get the hang of it. Besides, I already talked about this stuff earlier in the why didn't I succeed immediately bit. I think the big reason people stick to ads is the same reason other people will build huge followings on Instagram, then go to conferences to meet people whose products they can promote in their stories for a small percentage of the eventual revenue, rather than just developing their own products. It's fear. It's scary to ask people for their money. It's even scarier to ask people to invest a substantial amount. And here's the part I think poses a big obstacle. Many musicians and artists aren't robber barons. Maybe some people are okay asking for the maximum amount of money they think they can extract, just straight profiteering for a product. But most artists, in my experience, are not. And that's a good thing. But it also means that in order to ask for money, we need to be sure ourselves of the value. And this took a long time for me. When I started out, I didn't think my stuff was worth more than, say, $29, so I didn't feel right about asking more than $29 for it. Over time, two things happened. First, I got better at making courses, so my confidence in how good they were started to grow. Second, I was starting to get feedback about them from actual students, so my confidence in how well they worked and the real results people were getting from them also grew. Okay, you got me. This is actually really a commercial for my products. Go buy them. Go buy them. You know you want to. So that's me. But there was still this fear of, what would people say? What about all the emails telling me I sold out? Or that they'd subscribed thinking I was doing this for the right reasons, then realized I was too salesy? Well, two things. First, that same process I worked through to get confident selling my own lessons online also helped to thicken my skin. Now I sleep well, knowing I give a ton of my stuff away for free, and that occasionally I offer things for sale. To people who choose to join my mailing list, knowing full well that I offer things for sale there. That those things have produced great results for a lot of people, and that nobody's under any obligation to buy. They can stay on my list or subscribe to my channel forever, and that's fine if it's not for them. But here's the other thing. Those emails mostly never came. Sure, every once in a while I'd get a "you sold out" email, but it's so rare it's like a news event. In fact, it was one such email that eventually pushed me over the edge to do this lesson. The last email like that before that was probably a year ago. Okay, but so what? I'm still self-conscious that this is all about me, so I feel like I should spend at least a few minutes giving you some takeaways from this. Besides, if I see one more Ferrari posing, private jet riding, internet billionaire telling people they can make six figures from their bedroom, I'm gonna bust. So let's talk about the real. Is this for everybody? Definitely not. And there's a saying that seems to ring more and more true for me the more experience I get. Nothing easy is valuable, and nothing valuable is easy. There are a few exceptions, like temporary arbitrages and gold rushes, but in my experience, they're usually few, and at the time you'd need to get in them, they're usually highly illegible or a huge risk. And that's just one more reason you should regard these Instagram lifestyle bros with extreme skepticism. Anyway, for the rest of us, that means it's either easy, which means it's also easy for everybody else, which means it's a shitty, overcrowded ecosystem in which you don't get to dictate the terms and everybody's cutting everybody up for scraps, or it's hard. And it requires years of focus and facing a lot of fears, but that means few can follow you. And that means when you come out the other side, you get to dictate more of the terms. And that's one reason why I don't fear competition putting this out there. Besides, anyone who stole this and used it to develop their own platform would by necessity need to spend years developing their own voice and their own niche and their own following. And I firmly believe there are infinite little sub niches. There's enough for everybody who actually puts in the work. So there you have it. That's how I make money from YouTube. Maybe some part of this is tactically useful to you, and if so, great. But even if not, maybe a single insight from this video will be like a camel's nose under the tent. Maybe you won't be able to look at crappy ways of making money the same again. Finally, a word of thanks. If any of this sounds arrogant, or like I'm saying I've got it all figured out, remember the failure story from the beginning of the video. I spent a few years spinning my wheels, trying to sell products nobody wanted, and throwing my money away on ads. When I finally succeeded, it wasn't because of some ingenious idea I had. It was you guys. Somebody emailed me saying, "Hey, why don't you just sell us the practice routine you use to get better?" I gritted my teeth, put that on a website, and released it. And sure enough, people finally wanted it. Anyway, I hope you'll indulge me in this moment of navel gazing. I'll be back next week with something drum related. See you then.